What if I told you the last great epic poem in Germanic heroic style wasn't written by a Viking? Everyone knows Beowulf. Everyone's heard of the great Germanic epic poems that shaped medieval Europe. But what if I told you the very last poem written in this ancient heroic style wasn't composed in a mead hall or monastery, but in the Ottoman Empire? The Mevludi Sharif, written by Turkish poet Süleyman Çelebi in 1409, isn't just Islamic devotional poetry. It's the final flowering of a 1,000-year-old epic tradition that stretches from the forests of ancient Germania to the courts of medieval Turkey. Look at the structure: elaborate heroic epithets, supernatural birth narratives, cosmic battle imagery, formal genealogies. Every element that made Beowulf an epic masterpiece appears in the Mevlud. This isn't coincidence. It's literary DNA passed down through Turkic peoples who had direct historical connections to Germanic tribes. Here's what they don't teach you. Turkic peoples weren't isolated from Germanic culture. There were Turkic Vikings, extensive trade networks, centuries of cultural exchange across the Eurasian steppes. The epic tradition didn't stop at ethnic boundaries. It flowed like a river across civilizations. By the time Süleyman Çelebi put pen to paper, the great age of Germanic epic poetry was over. Beowulf was centuries old. The oral traditions were dying. But in the hands of a Turkish master, this ancient art form had one final brilliant resurrection, telling the story of Prophet Muhammad, using the same heroic framework that once celebrated Beowulf. That's beautiful. So what's the problem with the Mevludi Sharif? Extremists oppose Mevlud celebrations because they view them as bitter religious innovation that wasn't practiced by the Prophet Muhammad or his immediate companions. However, if the Prophet himself allowed or even encouraged Abdullah ibn Qurs to transform religious content into poetic form, then the Mevlud tradition has direct prophetic sanction for using poetry as a vehicle for Islamic devotional content. That's a crucial precedent that completely undermines the extremists' position. This historical example shows the Prophet recognizing that different forms of expression, including artistic and poetic ones, can serve legitimate religious purposes. It establishes that the boundary isn't between pure religious content versus innovative artistic expression, but rather about the intention and effect of the practice. Why don't you know this? Because academic gatekeepers benefit from keeping these connections hidden. Islamic studies, Germanic philology, Turkish literature, all separated into neat little boxes. When scholars can't see across these artificial boundaries, they miss the most important story: how epic poetry traveled across cultures and survived for over a millennium. So next time someone dismisses the Mevlud as mere religious innovation, remind them they're talking about potentially the last great epic poem in a tradition that gave us Beowulf, the Nibelungenlied, and shaped how entire civilizations understood heroism itself. This isn't just Turkish culture or Islamic literature. This is the final chapter of one of humanity's greatest storytelling traditions. Support this channel, like, share, and subscribe.